Have you ever prayed so much for something that you started to wonder if your words were getting anywhere? You waited, believed, confessed, cried, and silence was the only answer. If this resonates with you now, I want you to know you are not alone. And this video was made precisely for this moment in your life. Trust in God's timing. This phrase seems simple when life is going well. But when the days drag on, when plans never leave the drawing board, when the heart carries a weight that no one else can see, then faith ceases to be theory and becomes a battle, a real battle, fought in silence, often in the dark. There's something many people don't talk about openly. Waiting can hurt more than a negative response. When God says no, we learn to cope, but when He seems to say not yet, uncertainty corrodes from within. A deferred dream sickens the heart, as Proverbs 13:12 says. This isn't a pretty phrase for a wall painting, it's an honest description of what happens in the soul of someone who waits. And in the midst of this process, doubt knocks at the door with a cruel question. Has God forgotten about me? It's not weakness to feel this way. It's human. Even King David, the man after God's own heart, cried out, "How long, Lord? Will you forget me forever?" Psalm 13:1. If David felt this, you can feel it too, and still stand. But here's something that needs to be engraved in your heart before anything else. God's silence is never abandonment. It is in silence that roots grow. It is when nothing seems to be happening that something profound is being built. And before this video ends, you will understand exactly what God is doing while you wait, and why His timing is the only one that can be called perfect. The silence you feel now may not be the end of the story. It may be precisely where it truly begins. We live in a world that glorifies speed, fast delivery, immediate response, instant results. And without realizing it, we begin to apply this logic to spiritual life as well. Today, you want the answer tomorrow. You plant the seed in the morning and are surprised it hasn't sprouted in the afternoon. But God doesn't operate at the pace of notifications. He operates at the pace of eternity. And when haste takes over, what happens? We start trying to solve with our own hands what only God can build. We make hasty decisions. We force doors that are not yet open. And then comes the frustration, the regret, the feeling of having taken the wrong path. The attempt to rush God's timing almost always costs more than waiting. There's a story in the Bible that illustrates this in a way that will stay with you, the story of Abraham. God had made an extraordinary promise that Abraham, already old, would be the father of an uncountable nation, as numerous as the stars in the sky. A beautiful promise, impossible for human logic, but absolutely real for God. The problem? The years went by. Sarah remained childless, and the promise seemed ever more distant. Impatience got the better of her. Sarah convinced Abraham to have a child with Hagar, her servant. It seemed like a reasonable solution. After all, time was passing, bodies were aging, and God apparently wasn't acting. Ishmael was born. But Ishmael was not the son of the promise. He was the son of haste, and the consequences of that hasty decision generated conflict, pain, and division that echo to this day. Genesis 16 recounts all of this with an impressive honesty. The Bible doesn't hide the mistakes of its heroes. 25 years after the promise, when Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah 90, Isaac was born, the son of the promise. At the right time, at the exact moment when only a miracle could explain the birth, so that no one could say it was coincidence, human effort, or good luck. God waited until the point where the only possible explanation was Himself. How can we trust in God's plans? By looking at Abraham, haste begat Ishmael, but spiritual patience begat Isaac, and with him, the fulfillment of all that God had promised. Every time you try to rush what God is building, you run the risk of creating an Ishmael when God is preparing your Isaac. There's a very common misconception in the walk of faith, that when we don't see movement, there is no movement, that when we don't feel anything, nothing is happening. But think of a seed under the ground. No one sees it germinate. No one witnesses the moment when the root first breaks through the soil. And yet, the process is underway. Invisible, silent, but real. God acts at the right time, and often acts exactly where the eyes cannot see. Isaiah 45:3 says something powerful. I will give you the treasures hidden in darkness and the riches kept in secret places. Hidden treasures, riches in secret places. God has a habit of building the most important things away from the spotlight, away from the audience, even away from our own perception. Think of the womb. A child forms over 9 months inside a completely dark place, without the mother being able to see absolutely anything happening. But life is being woven, organs are forming, heartbeats are emerging, an entire being is being prepared for the world. When God is working in the invisible aspects of your life, that is exactly what is happening. He is forming something that you cannot yet see, but that is alive, is growing, is almost ready. God is never late. This is not an empty, comforting phrase. It is a profound theological statement. The Lord who created time is not trapped within it. He sees the end from the beginning. He is already in the tomorrow you have not yet reached. And when he acts with a precision that can only be called divine. As Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, he did everything appropriately for his time. Everything, not some things, everything. So the next time the silence tightens, when anxiety whispers that God has forgotten, take a deep breath and remember, the invisible is not non-existent. What you don't see may be exactly where God is most present, most active, most caring. He's behind the scenes of your story, and God's behind-the-scenes moments are always more impressive than anything that appears on stage. He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor see the light. Psalm 121:4. He never took his eyes off you, not for a second. What if waiting wasn't just an interval between two important moments, but was itself the most important moment? This question can completely change how you see the process you're going through right now. Because God doesn't just use time to get to a destination, He uses time to transform those who go there. God's purpose in His perfect timing involves a work that often lies not in external circumstances, but within you. Patience isn't learned by reading about patience. It's forged in real waiting, in concrete situations with no defined deadline. Humility isn't born from success. It grows the moment you realize you control nothing. Faith doesn't develop when everything is clear. It deepens precisely when you see nothing, but choose to believe anyway. God's plans are perfect, and part of that perfection lies in the sequence. God doesn't give you the palace before preparing you to rule within it. He doesn't entrust you with the mission before building the character it requires. Abraham himself needed to learn to walk with God for decades before becoming the father of the faith we know. Each year of waiting was a lesson. Each moment of doubt was an opportunity to choose to trust. The waiting was the school, and the school was necessary. James 1:3-4 says that the testing of faith produces perseverance, and that perseverance, when fully realized, makes a person complete, mature, lacking nothing. Think about that. Waiting, when approached with faith, doesn't leave you with less. It completes you. It makes you exactly who you need to be to receive what God has prepared. And speaking of receiving what God has prepared, if this content is touching something within you, now is the time to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. It's not just a gesture of support, it's a way of saying that you want to continue growing spiritually. And we will continue here every week with messages that strengthen your faith. Waiting on God is never a waste. Each day spent in that waiting period is shaping you into something greater than you can yet imagine. There comes a point in the journey of faith when logic no longer suffices. Arguments run out, explanations fall short, and you find yourself facing a very simple choice, and at the same time, one of the most difficult in life: to trust or not to trust. Not because you understand, not because the circumstances are favorable, but because you choose to believe that God is who He says He is. Waiting on God with faith is not passivity. It's not crossing your arms and pretending everything is all right when it's not. It's an active stance of putting your will above your emotions. It's waking up on a difficult day and saying, "I'm not seeing anything, but I trust." It's praying without knowing the answer and still ending the prayer with a genuine amen. That's faith. Faith that costs, that hurts, that makes a choice. And precisely for that reason, that transforms. Hebrews 11 is known as the chapter of the heroes of faith. And there's something impressive there. Most of them didn't see the fulfillment of the promises in their lifetime. The text says that all these died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them and greeted them from afar. From afar. They trusted in something they didn't yet have in their hands, and they were called heroes of faith, not because everything turned out the way they expected, but because they didn't give up on trusting. Trusting God even without understanding is perhaps the purest act of worship that exists, because when you trust when everything is going well, that's gratitude. But when you trust in the dark, without guarantees, without visible signs, that's faith. And it's this kind of faith that moves mountains, that parts the sea, that brings down walls. Not the comfortable faith of easy days, but the firm faith of days that test everything you believe in. So where are you now? Perhaps on the verge of giving up, perhaps with a heart weary of waiting, perhaps questioning whether it's still worth believing. And it is precisely to you in that place that God speaks today. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isaiah 41:10. The peace that God promises doesn't come after everything is resolved. It comes before, when you choose to trust, before you see. We've reached the end of this journey, but not the end of everything God is doing in your life. Quite the opposite, because now, after everything we've been through together here, there's something that needs to be said clearly and authoritatively. God's timing is perfect. Not almost perfect, not usually good. Perfect, always. And here is the biblical revelation I promised from the beginning of this video. In John 11, Lazarus was sick. His family sent word to Jesus, and the text says something that seems cruel at first glance. Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, so when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. He stayed for 2 days, out of love. He let his friend die, out of love. He arrived 4 days after the funeral, out of love. From a human perspective, it was too late. From a divine perspective, it was the perfect time. Because the miracle Jesus performed there wasn't just resurrecting a man, it was showing all generations, including his own, that he has power over what seems definitively lost. That when God arrives late, he isn't arriving late. He is arriving to do the impossible, so that the glory that is manifested may be so great that no one can attribute it to anything other than him. Hope in God's action is not a fragile emotion dependent on circumstances. It is a firm and secure anchor, as Hebrews 6:19 says. An anchor. In the midst of the storm, the anchor doesn't stop the wind, but it prevents the boat from being lost. And when you anchor your life in God's timing, you may sway, but you won't drift. The peace that God gives is not the absence of problems. It is His presence within the problems. It is waking up on a difficult day and feeling that you are not alone. It is going through a period of waiting and realizing that you came out on the other side stronger, more whole, more like who God always wanted you to be. The wait was not in vain. It never was. And what God promised for your life, He will fulfill. In the right time, in the right way, in a way that will make you understand why you needed to wait. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. If you've made it this far, it wasn't by chance. God has a way of putting the right message in front of the right person at the right time. And perhaps everything you heard today was exactly what your heart needed. Trusting in God's timing doesn't mean pretending that the wait doesn't hurt. It means choosing every day to believe that the one who began a good work in you will complete it, as Philippians 1:6 promises. It means looking at the silence without panic, because you know that God is working in the unseen. It means understanding that God's plans are perfect, not just in the outcome, but in the entire process, including the difficult days, the long nights, and the prayers that are still awaiting answers. Your story is not over. The chapter you are living now, whether it's filled with doubt, waiting, or weariness, is not the last. God is still writing, and He writes beautiful stories. Stories of restoration, of purpose, of faith that triumphed when everything pointed to defeat. You are part of one of those stories. So here's the invitation. Don't keep this message to yourself. Share it with someone who is waiting right now, someone with a heavy heart who needs to hear that God is not late. Leave your comment below. Tell us which part of this message you identified with the most. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it now. Because every week there's a new message waiting for you. May the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:7. Until next time. And remember, God knows what He's doing.